So, back again. It's been a little while since we recorded one of our chats, and we've been holding back a lot of our comments that we wanted to make as we've been reading again for like the 100th time. So, finally, I can release some of the comments we've been talking about, but then telling each other stop, no, save it for the podcast. And we're going to talk about the Blight.
Yeah. There's a big topic that we know nothing about from the world experience, right? It's just left very open on purpose. There's so much mystery left for us to imagine and think about. But what we do know is it's really scary.
Yeah. Yeah, super scary. We don't get to see much of it in the main books, really any of it, right?
Yeah,
it's such a great mystery. So many amazing stories could be in there. So first of all, I think start off the Blight is only in the north.
Yeah.
It's only in the north. It's not on both of the poles, and it's centered on Shale Ghul.
Yeah, as far as we can tell.
So I just want to briefly read from the Wheel of Time companion book, which was, if you don't know about it and you're listening and you love the Wheel of Time enough to listen to this podcast, I just go buy it. It's amazing. I think we've said before on the podcast, reading, doing a reread with the companion next to you is amazing. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's great.
Okay, so the entry here is the Great Blight. Great Blight is the official name, I guess. So a stretch of territory north of the Borderlands, home of the Trollocs, Myrddraal, and other creatures of the Shadow, and characterized by the evil influence of the Dark One. Not part of the normal universe.
Oh, that's fun.
Right? I'll read it again. Not part of the normal universe, as was also true of Stedding or lands of Eilfin. It was not reflected in and could not be entered from Telia on Riyadh.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Whoa!
Yeah, that's crazy. This is...
No way!
Wow. Okay, that's super fun, actually.
That just raises so many freaking questions,
right? More and more questions. So, especially around the plants, right? Because plants in the steadings do fine.
Oh, right? It's almost like an anti-steading.
Oh, that's fun. That's a fun thought.
Real quick, I wanted to read this other thing, which is really interesting. The Blasted Lands. That's the entry here in the book. A wasteland surrounding Shale Ghul, beyond the Blight. So there's the Blight, and then there's the Blasted Lands. So I guess they're separate.
Oh.
The Blasted Lands could not support vegetation of any kind, an indication of the Dark One's influence in the extreme. In the Blasted Land, the land itself could kill.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah. I guess that makes more sense too, right? Because the those creepy blacksmiths.
Or in the cave.
Yeah, in the cave itself. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, this is super
wild.
Fun. I love the companion.
Oh, man, it's such a good book. If you don't have it, buy it.
Yeah. So I think especially the influence. So throughout the Wheel of Time, plants and wind and nature is such a massive allegory for the creator, right? Along with many other things that I'm sure we'll touch on later. But the fact that as you get closer and closer to Shale Ghul, the plants even just can't live anymore and die off. It's kind of like a fun gradient zone
Yeah.
of the seed of the Dark One just taking over. And what's super fun is we know the Blight influence changes based off of how strong the Dark One is, right?
Yeah, that's true. At least that's what Moraine is kind of talking about, and it's kind of like illustrated at the end of the Eye of the World.
Yeah.
That the influence is stronger, and so the blight is stirring,
Yeah.
as they say. Yeah.
And you have all these characters talk about how they remember when the Blight was further back, right? Or even in different countries, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's in the far north, where outside of the Blight, it's freezing cold. The houses of Faldara are A-frame houses.
Yeah.
With chimneys angled to to brace against the snow that slides off the roof. But then just a few miles away, it's hot.
Yeah.
Like so hot that they have to take all like their jackets and stuff off. Except for Lan, because he knows what the hell he's doing. He's like, I'm not taking my jacket off. Am I hot? Yeah, but if one of these branches cuts, scrapes my arm, I'm gonna lose my arm. So no thanks.
Yeah, right. And the boys' experience is probably one of the best that we can pull from for the Blight, right?
Yeah.
Like there's some experiences later on with later Brandon Sanderson's work, right? But you don't have any guides or really explanations of the Blight. It's just kind of like people getting snagged by trees and stuff, or the weird bear creature killing somebody.
Kind of feels like Sanderson just grabbed the events from Eye of the World, and just kind of like did a remix on the same thing without providing any new information or experiences. But it's been a while. Like the later books, I obviously haven't reread as many times because they haven't existed for as long as the first books. So I'm looking forward to rereading that again and again. But I always wondered, why the hell do warders and Aes Sedai go into the Blight? Why does anybody go into the Blight?
Yeah, that's a great question too, right? Especially because we know Moraine and likely Lan have been over the mountain pass to the Eye of the World before this.
Yeah.
Before the first book took place.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't think Lan visited the Eye of the World, which is super interesting. That she was there, because the Green Man mentioned Moraine. I'm especially surprised to see you here, and he never mentioned.
Mentioned Lan. Oh, that's super crazy. Why? I didn't realize that. That's a fun little tidbit of information, especially because by New Spring, Lan was a veteran of the Blight, right? Like it was even talked about with Briss.
He was already like pretty old, like mid-30s.
Yeah.
By the time New Spring came around. Yeah. Yeah,
like it was talked about he saved Lord Briss's life like twice in the Blight, and Briss had saved his twice in the Blight. Right. So it's like veteran of the Blight. I wonder when Elias kind of mixed in with that. I know he was the one that taught Lan the most about the Blight.
Yeah, that's what. Lan said he taught him a lot about the Blight.
Yeah,
which is interesting because he grew up and was raised and went on training missions his I don't know what to call him. Um, his
Oh yeah, like his little circle of
Yeah, his parents of like
Malkiri's
Navy
circle.
SEALs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, his parents of Navy SEALs. Yeah, like Bukama.
yeah. Like they took him into the Blight when he was young. At
Yeah,
least that's my impression.
yeah. I think it
Yeah,
was explicitly stated even.
yeah, yeah. But if Elias taught him about the Blight, man, there's so much
How much?
unknown. Like why? Like I understand. Like okay, we've got to chase these Trollocs into the Blight. We can't just let them go in there and hide.
Yeah,
But aside from that, I don't really understand why do they need to go in? What are they doing?
yeah. Like, is it consistent scouting?
Yeah,
Right?
I'm so
Like,
interested.
are you?
So,
Yeah, and because they've used the term warder scouts before with regards to the blight,
mm,
which would make sense of just consistently trying to get information on your enemies that are constantly raiding you.
yeah, yeah, like constantly trying to see like are they preparing for a raid somewhere?
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Um, so I sent you a text weeks ago now about my theory about the blight and Robert Jordan's experience within Vietnam,
Mm.
in that the red, like creeping south, right, might have had a correlation with the Communist Party, um, and the blight being communism coming over and pushing south, and you there's that border. I think I'm stretching a bit at this part of like there's the Vietnam War wasn't just within the borders of Vietnam.
Yeah.
It was in all countries around. There's you know especially like Laos, um,
Yeah.
and you know there was a lot of those Laotian folks that we essentially made our allies, and they were doing the Laotian troops were doing lots of operations behind enemy lines and lots of like black ops things we pretended we weren't doing, but we actually were um, up in the communist lands. Um, there
Yeah.
seems to be
I
some correlation in that,
I
whether
don't.
intentional or unintentional.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say the man growing up in such a period and being actively involved in it could not help but be influenced by that time of his life, right?
Yeah.
Like, authors are constantly influenced by specific factors like that. And if you look at things that would be other parallels, right? Like North Korea, for example.
That was just before.
Yeah, just before his time. Um, and I mean, that's probably who he learned from, right? Is guys that
Yeah.
experienced the Korean War.
Yeah, the senior folks in the military would have been the junior folks in the Korean War, and potentially even some holdovers from super old guys from World War II.
Yeah. Which is kind of a fun additional thought of, so these guys really felt like they were doing the right thing, right? Like the idea of Korea
Mm-hmm.
and Malkir, right? Of like they're fighting the blight in the north. And then just an interesting thought here is Land's experience with the Aiel was, wait, does it make sense fighting these people?
Mm. Yeah, I want to throw one last little thing in here before we call the episode done. In that, um, there's several things I want to say about the blight,
It's a
but
huge topic.
maybe I'll save a lot of it for the next chat we have about the blight. But the in the initial concepts, when Robert Jordan was putting together his first initial thoughts and drafts of the outline, was that they've drilled a bore into an alternate universe.
Yeah.
Right. And on the other side of that universe, that bore, that universe started to leak through into ours.
Yeah.
And that was like they basically poisoned their world. Their world was dying and was highly toxic, and mutated from like whatever was going on in their universe, and they wanted to come to our universe because it was nice and clean, right? And so the blight is kind of origin. It's not the same, but it kind of originates from that original idea that he had of that alternate universe bleeding through into ours. There's some other stuff in there that is interesting to talk about, but
now I have another thought before we wrap up. I need to voice this. Okay, he was a nuclear engineer, right?
Yeah,
and the whole idea of drilling through the bore was to find another energy source, right? And the blight is very similar to nuclear radiation.
Yeah, interesting. So he was a, I believe, his role. So he was obviously got his degree in nuclear engineering, and then he got a job with the Department of Energy building, I want to say like a nuclear power plant there in Georgia, and his role, I want to say, was like a test engineer. And so his role would have been thinking about what are the ways that things can go wrong.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it would have really lended itself to this kind of imaginative thinking.
Yeah, of like things being mutated and potentially growing, and this world changing, and life no longer being able to live in this area. It's just kind of a fun thought, right?
Yeah. Oh man,
it's an allegory of being careful.
There's a bunch more we could talk about, but I think we need to wrap this one up.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, if you're listening to this, awesome. Thanks. I hope you enjoyed our little chat.